Hey guys, it's Marshall Mathers the Fourth here, back to you today with another video. And in today's video, I'm going to be making a video today about the fact that I really wish and do believe that Eminem should have released his mainstream hip-hop debut rap album, the Slim Shady LP, on February 1, 1998, at the age of 25 years old. And the many reasons as to why not only I wish but also believe he should have released his Slim Shady LP album on exactly February 1 of 1998 at the age of 25 is, first of all, because when it comes to most rappers who came before him, like Tupac, Ice Cube, Notorious Big, and so on and so forth, Nas, all those rappers were able to release their debut albums way younger than he ever got to release any of his. Like, for example, Tupac was able to release his debut album, Tupacalypse Now, in 1991 at the age of 20 years old. Nas was able to release his debut album, Illmatic, in 1994 at the age of 20 or 21 years old. Ice Cube was able to release his debut album, America's Most Wanted, in the year 1990 at the age of just 21. Notorious Big was able to release his debut album, Ready to Die, in 1994 at the age of just 22 years old. But Eminem wasn't able to release his Slim Shady LP album until his late 20s at the age of 26 on February 26, 1999, which I think is bullshit and unfair, because most old school rappers, and hell, even most new school rappers, are able to release their first album in their late teens, early 20s. I mean, I'm serious. I'm not even fucking around. Like, most rappers from either the old school era of rap or new school era of rap are able to release their debut albums at the age of like 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, maybe even at the very oldest. But still, like, late teens, early 20s, in that, like, age span. But Eminem wasn't able to release his first debut album, the Slim Shady LP, until February 26th of 1999 at the age of 26. I don't care what any of you else think or say, because that's unfair. And that's just fucked up. That's bullshit. And the reason it's bullshit, fucked up, and unfair is because he had been rapping since he was 15, 16 years old. Since the late 80s. Yeah, that's how long he's been rapping for. I mean, that's the age at which he at least started rapping at, like 15, 16 years old. Super young. But then it took him until age 25 to be found and signed by Dr. Dre to Dr. Dre's Aftermath record label company on March 9 of 1998, when Dr. Dre was 33 years old and Eminem was 25. And then it took Eminem until age 26 to release his mainstream hip-hop rap debut album, the Slim Shady LP. And I just think it would have been a lot more fair if Eminem had at least been able to release that album of his at the age of 25. Because in my personal opinion, that's the oldest that he should have been at when releasing that album of his. And nobody can convince me otherwise. Obviously, you can disagree with me if you want. That's totally fine. I don't care. I don't expect everyone to agree with me. But if you disagree with me, I'll obviously respectfully disagree with you. Completely. But just as you're all entitled to your own opinions, I am to mine. Regardless if you agree with me or not. It's not going to change my mind. It's not going to change my opinion on the fact that I wish and do strongly believe that Eminem should have released his Slim Shady LP album on exactly February 1, 1998, at the age of just 25 years old. Because, this would have also meant that when he would have started recording that album of his, he would have been recording all the songs on it when he was only 24 years old in early 1997. Because say things would have been different and he would have done a much smarter, wiser thing and released his Slim Shady EP on December 5 of 1996 at the age of 24 years old, which he most definitely should have done without a doubt, so that he could have been found and signed by Dr. Dre to Dr. Dre's Aftermath record label company while he would have still been in his early 20s. And honestly, he should have released his Slim Shady EP while he would have still been in his early 20s. He should not have released his Slim Shady EP any older than 24 years old. And that's my opinion. That's my point of view. Regardless if you agree with me or not. I don't care. But you're not going to change my mind. You're not going to convince me otherwise. Because it's never going to stop me from thinking and believing that Eminem should have released his Slim Shady EP while he would have still been in his early fucking 20s. And you know what else? This would have also meant that Dr. Dre would not have struggled so much and had such a difficult time finding any rapper, whether male or female rapper, to sign to his Aftermath record label company after he founded it on March 22 of 1996 at the age of 31 years old. But it took him like almost 2 years later to find and sign Eminem to his Aftermath record label company because of when Eminem actually did release his Slim Shady EP, unfortunately on December 15 of 1997 at the age of 25 years old. Which I hate that he did that. And the only way he could have maybe released his Slim Shady EP on December 5 of 1996 at the age of just 24 years old, like I really wish he would have, and I wanted him to, is only if he would have thought to release his underground debut hip-hop rap album, Infinite, a whole year earlier instead of in late 1996, in late 1995 instead at the age of 23, like on November 2 of 1995 at the age of 23 years old. Because that's exactly when I wish he would have released his Infinite album. And I am pissed that he didn't release his Infinite album on November 2 of 1995 at the age of just 23 years old. Because if he would have thought to have done that in the mid-90s when he was in his early 20s, only at the age of 23, he could have then obviously and more likely have been able to release his Slim Shady EP on December 5 of 1996 at the age of 24 years old, while he would have still been in his early 20s, so that he could have been found and signed by Dr. Dre to his Aftermath record label company in late February of 97 or early March of 97 at the age of just 24 years old. And at this time, Dr. Dre would have only been 32. And then he would have immediately started working on his Slim Shady LP album, and then he could have released it on the month and day, especially year that I wanted him to, being February 1 of 1998. And I would have much rather preferred, and I've loved to see and have been so content and at peace, if I would have been able to hear a 24-year-old Eminem on all the songs of his Slim Shady LP album, knowing that that's when he would have obviously recorded all those songs on his Slim Shady LP album. But then when it would have been released, he would have only been 25 years old and no older. And in all four of the music videos that are on his Slim Shady LP album, being Hi, My Name Is, Guilty Conscience featuring Dr. Dre, Role Model, and I Just Don't Give a Fuck, I, as well as all of you, would have been seeing a only 25-year-old Eminem. And obviously, I understand that 25 and 26 is not that big of an age difference. It's obviously not, and I get that. You don't have to state the obvious, but it still makes a difference to me. I know that may be confusing or hard to understand for many of you, but it's still a difference. It's still a year difference. And the fact is, he would have been younger. And I don't think he should have been any older than 25 when releasing his Slim Shady LP album. I really don't. Not for a second. I don't think he should have been 26 years old when releasing that album of his. I really don't. I don't think he should have been any older than 25. I don't think he should have been any younger, but I think 25 years old would have just been the best and most perfect age for him to release his Slim Shady LP album at. But you know what I also wish, and do strongly believe, of course, is that Eminem would have included a deluxe edition of his Slim Shady LP album, including 3 more extra tracks being the Slim Shady EP versions of Low Down Dirty, No One's Iller Than Me featuring D12, and Murder Murder. The Slim Shady EP versions of those 3 songs. But you know what's interesting about those 3 songs is that there was an early original version of Eminem's Slim Shady LP album that he never did release, and it's called the Unmastered Sequence of Eminem's Slim Shady LP album, where he would have released those 3 songs, but they would not have been the Slim Shady EP versions. They would have been re-recorded, and they would have had slightly different beats and even some slightly different verses on those 3 songs. And if you want to, and if you're interested, you can look up those songs on YouTube if you don't believe me. Also, on the Unmastered Sequence version of Eminem's Slim Shady LP album, he was going to have the uncensored, uncut version of his song Hi, My Name Is. And a lot of you may think you're listening to the actually explicit, dirty version of that song of his, but you're not, because in the actual uncut, uncensored version of that song of his, he says, "My English teacher wanted to fuck me in junior high. The only problem was my English teacher was a guy." And he also says in another part of the uncut, uncensored version of that song, he says, "Walked in a strip club, had my jacket zipped up, raping lesbians while I'm running over pedestrians." But in the version that's more popular and more well-known, he censors that. He also, instead of saying, "My English teacher wanted to fuck me in junior high, the only problem was my English teacher was a guy," in the more popular version that we all know and that we listen to way more, he says, or changes it to, "My English teacher wanted to flunk me in junior high. Thanks a lot. Next semester I'll be 35. So there's obviously like a few different versions of that song. Obviously the clean, the dirty explicit version, that's somewhat dirty and explicit, and then there's the uncensored uncut version, which you can actually listen to on YouTube. It's pretty dope and funny. And if he would have released his unmastered sequence version of his Slim Shady LP album, we would have gotten that version of his song Hi, My Name Is, but also we would have got the unmastered sequence versions of his songs Low Down Dirty, No One's Iller Than Me featuring D12, and Murder Murder, as well as Take the World With Me featuring Pace One and Bizarre. But you know what's also interesting about that unmastered sequence version of Eminem's Slim Shady LP album is that some of the songs that are on his Slim Shady LP album that we know would not have been on that version. Like, for example, the song Rock Bottom, which is one of my all-time favorite Eminem songs from his Slim Shady LP album. But on his unmastered version sequence of his Slim Shady LP album, he would not have had the song Rock Bottom on that version of his album, the original version of the Slim Shady LP album, also he would not have had as many skits. So he would have had actually more songs on that version of his Slim Shady LP album if he would have gone with that version. And in a way, I'm glad he didn't, because I really love the song Rock Bottom. But I would have loved the uncensored, uncut version of his song Hi, My Name Is. And I would have loved the Slim Shady EP versions of his songs Low Down Dirty, No One's Other Than Me featuring D12, and Murder Murder for a deluxe edition version of his Slim Shady LP album that I really wish we would have gotten, and strongly believe we should have gotten, and would have been very considerate and generous of him if he would have actually made and released or included a deluxe edition of his Slim Shady LP album, which pisses me off that he didn't and never thought to, unfortunately. And if he would have that, again, I would have wanted him to have released the Slim Shady EP versions of his songs Low Down Dirty, No One's Other Than Me featuring D12, and Murder Murder. But sadly, that didn't happen. But, I mean, again, I just feel like it would have been so awesome and epic and amazing if Eminem would have only been at the age of 25 years old when releasing that album of his, the age that I really wish he would have been at more than anything. The age I wanted him to be at, the age I believe he should have been at when he released that album of his, but sadly wasn't. And you know what else? Another reason, and I guess just kind of one last short, quick reason why I wish and strongly believe he should have released his Slim Shady LP album at the age of 25 years old on February 1 of 1998 is because Tupac, after he died in September of 1996 at the age of 25 years old, after being murdered in Las Vegas, his friends or family or something like that released his last and final album, which was called Machiavelli the Don 7-Day Theory Kill Illuminati. And if he would have lived to see that release, he would have been 25. But he had finished that album before dying. And he released 2 albums in the year 1996. His first album that he released that year was All Eyes on Me in early 1996 at the age of 24. And then Machiavelli the Don 7-Day Theory Kill Illuminati was released after his death in late 1996. And if he would have lived to have released that album himself, or would have lived to see the release of it, he would have been 25 years old. And knowing that that last album of his would have been released when he was 25, and knowing that Tupac is one of Eminem's favorite rappers, one that he was deeply influenced and inspired by and really looked up to and admired and respected and whatnot, I would have loved it if Eminem would have been able to release his Slim Shady LP album at the age of 25 years old on February 1 of 1998. And actually, just to quickly throw one last short reason why I really wish and do strongly believe he should have been able to release his Slim Shady LP album on February 1 of 1998 is because when I look at that album of his, when I look at the cover, when I think about the atmosphere and the vibe of it, the tone it gives off, to me at least, is an album that just would have been much better and greater, and an album that just feels like it would have been way more right to have been released in the year 1998 rather than 1999. It just feels like, to me, an album that was meant to be a 1998 released rap album, but not just any time in the year 1998, but specifically and exactly on February 1 of 1998 and no later. And I mean, by the way, he has a song on that album of his titled 97 Bonnie and Clyde, yet that album of his came out in February of 1999. So if it would have came out in February of 1998, that would have at least been much more closer to the year 1997 than 1999. But again, these are just my opinions. These are my feelings. And nobody can convince me otherwise that he should have released his Slim Shady LP album on February 1 of 1998. And I really wish he would have been able to. It pisses me the fuck off that he wasn't able to. It breaks my heart. It makes me angry. But it also makes me angry that he didn't ever think of making and releasing or including a deluxe edition of his Slim Shady LP album, which would have just been the most complete, ultimate version and edition of that album of his. But anyway, that's all I wanted to say in today's video. Let me know what you all think in the comment section down below. I'm out.